I'm going to tell you my top 5 trade targets for the Mariners this winter, and Colby's going to tell you his top 5 ballpark foods coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Thursday, October 10th, 2024. This is Ty Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today, we are unveiling our new weekly top 5 series. Some weeks this will happen on Tuesday. Others, like this one, will happen on Thursday. We'll be doing this over the course of the entire off season. And on yesterday's show, we spun a wheel to give both Colby and I a topic each to do a top 5 for. I'll be doing top 5 trade targets for the Mariners this winter, and Colby will be doing top 5 ballpark foods. And that's kind of how this is going to go every single week. Yeah. One of us is going to switch off doing the more serious Mariners related topic, and the other one will do kind of the silly topic, like a top 5 ballpark foods. So this is what the wheel determined. And Colby, you just need to honor the wheel's judgment.
I will. But I am not happy about it. The wheel has always been much nicer to me than you. And this time it gave you my favorite topic and I got stuck with ballpark foods.
Well, at the very least, you can tell me how stupid my list is and
that was going to happen either way.
Well, if I didn't have a list to begin with, then no.
You would have just forced yourself to make a list, and then I would have called all the ideas.
That's true. So. That's true. You know me too well. Before we get into the show, shout out to our title sponsor today, FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, check out our Patreon. The link is in the description, and you can sign up for a free 7-day trial. All right, so let's get into my top 5 list. Actually, let's start here with a couple of honorable mentions, some guys that I heavily considered for the list, but just didn't make the cut. Brent Rooker, I love him. I honestly would put him at number 1 on this list if I thought it was realistic, but he's coming off an insane year. He's just now ARB eligible, and the A's, for some reason, believe in a division tax, or at least the last we heard of. So that's Colt Emerson plus, and I just don't think the Mariners are going to pay that price, especially for a 29-year-old DH who is coming off of a career year by far. Like, he was really good in 2023, but he was nuts this year. So, yeah. Bo Bichette, he's got 1 year left, and if you've listened to our Patreon show over the last couple of days, you know we've talked about him a lot, but I only see one path to that happening, and again, if you've listened to the show, you know what that path is, and I'm just not sure how realistic it is, so I left him off the list, because it's $16.5 million. He's coming off a terrible year. And you'd also be asking him to play out a position at third base, which he should be able to handle just fine coming from shortstop, but still, you get the point. Lastly, Jake Burger. He's technically a third baseman, but he's not good there. He's more of a first base DH type. But you got to do something at third base, and probably have to entertain the third base aspect here because of how limited the options are. And at the very least, his offensive profile actually fits there, which, if you kind of do what we're doing right now and crafting our offseason plan and looking at all the options, you'll find there aren't a lot of guys out there that are realistically available that their bat actually fits third base. So, yeah. So those are the 3 guys that just kind of missed the cut there for one reason or the other. Let's get into the top 5. So we're going to start at number 5 with someone who's pretty relevant right now, and that's Phillies third baseman Alec Bohm. So I'm really hesitant about Bohm, but again, you got to do something at third base, and the reality is here, he might be one of the very few natural third basemen who's actually available this winter. Now, the reasons he's available are not particularly encouraging. His overall numbers this year are actually really solid: 280, 332, 448, 15 homers, 97 RBI. He was one of the best hitters in the league for the first 2 months of the season. But then his mechanics got out of whack, and since July 1st, he slashed just 253, 306, 392. That's a 94 WRC plus. He also had an awful postseason. Was even left out of the lineup in game 2 of the NLDS because Rob Thompson wanted to get, quote, some energy in the lineup. So that's obviously not a great look for Mr. Bohm.
Leaves your player out to dry, kind of implies that he's bringing a negative energy.
Your
club. But
yeah. So it kind of seems like Philadelphia might be over him.
Maybe.
Yeah. So that's part of why I think he might be available.
That, sees the writing on the wall and is panics a little bit, but
sure. He's also not your prototypical third base profile at the plate. It's more average over slug. He doesn't really walk. Defensively, the metrics liked him this year, but hated him every year prior. So do with that information what you will. You guys know how we feel about defensive metrics here. So all that said, which I know after all that, why is he on this list, right? Well, again, the Mariners need to do something at third base. They have to do something this offseason. And frankly, beggars can't be choosers in this market. And look, I think there's actually quite a bit of upside here. You take a look at his Baseball Savant page, there's a lot of red, which is very, very good thing. He puts the ball in play a lot. The expected numbers say that his high batting average is well earned and therefore sustainable. He doesn't strike out or even whiff much in general. And park factors say that his over the wall power will play just about the same at T-Mobile Park. So it doesn't seem like that glaring negative area for him will regress much, that there's much risk of that happening. So at the very least, I think you're still banking on, 15-ish home runs from Alec Bohm, even at T-Mobile Park. Sure.
It's kind of similar to Jonathan India. Same type of idea.
Pretty much.
It's funny that you put Bohm scrolling through Twitter while you were talking, because of course I'm not listening, but of course, friend of yours, I don't know if he's a friend of the show since he hasn't been on the show. But Jage posted.
No, he has been on the show. He has been on the show.
Oh, well, then Jage, friend of the show, posted an Alec Bohm trade himself this morning.
Oh, there you go.
On Twitter. So there you go. Yeah, Bohm is interesting. The Phillies have some, not necessarily financial constraints, but they're up against the luxury tax already, and that is not counting for the pre-arb or the arbitration guys. Like Bohm. So they've already committed a lot of money to their roster on just about 9 or 10 guys. And, it's not that Philly won't spend or that they're afraid to go over the luxury tax, but once you go over, the penalties start to stack. And so you might want to reset. And if Bohm is a guy that you don't love, and maybe you think Sosa is like close enough to what Bohm can do, and Sosa is going to do it for $6 million less, you might be willing to trade him. And I think, when you think about Philadelphia and what could Philadelphia want, Philly, particularly Dombrowski, really gets aggressive on bullpen arms. So you remember what they gave for Estevez over the deadline for 2 months of that guy. So I don't think this cost you Andres Munoz, but could it cost you Gregory Santos?
Maybe.
Might it cost you Colin Snyder and some other things maybe. And so if you can get Bohm for Gregory Santos, 2 years of Bohm for 5 years, 4 years of Santos.
Yeah.
Might consider something like that.
And look, maybe getting him out of Philly will alleviate some of the pressure on him. Allow him to play a bit more loose. Yeah, we obviously saw what that did for JP, so you never know. So lastly on Bohm, he's got 2 years left of club control, projected to make about $8.1 million in ARB, so a bit pricey given the red flags I mentioned, but again, he's an actual third baseman. And the more I look at this market, the more I worry that the Mariners are going to have to either ask someone who's never played third base before to do it, and or someone whose offensive profile doesn't really fit the position. So, yeah.
Not a lot of great options.
No. So coming in at number 4, Lamont Wade Jr., Giants first baseman / corner outfielder, quote unquote. Kind of like Bohm, Wade was amazing for the first 2 months of this year, then just fell off a cliff, and his fall off was even worse. He slashed 213, 316, 351. That's an 89 WRC plus from June 28th onward.
You mean he's not a 500 on base guy?
No,
Wow,
he is not. But there's also a pretty obvious connection we can make here. He missed a month with a hamstring injury at the end of May. So he basically missed all of June. And, well, I just read you the numbers. So clearly he just was never able to get back on the horse. He was bad in July, bad in August, a little bit better in September, but still below average. I still like the fit, though, and I think there's a pretty good chance he can bounce back. There are a couple things he can do exceptionally well. He puts the ball in play a lot, and he walks a lot. His 15.5% walk rate ranked third amongst all MLB hitters with at least 400 plate appearances. And guess who the only guys were that he finished behind? Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. So
who?
Yeah, exactly. He's also been able to handle himself pretty well against lefties the last couple of years, albeit in limited opportunities. But 143 WRC plus this year and just 43 plate appearances, whatever, and 100 WRC plus and 81 plate appearances in 2023. So not really much of a sample size, but there you go. So the issue here is, he's a first baseman who doesn't hit for much power. He had 18 homers in 2021. 8 in 2022, 17 in 2023, and then 8 again this year. But he gets on base a ton. 380 on base percentage this year, 373 last year. There's value in that, and his left-handed swing should play well at T-Mobile Park. So the idea here is essentially a left-handed version of what Justin Turner is now, with more on base.
Yeah. You get him for a year?
Get him for a year. He's only projected to make $4.7 million.
Probably not going to cost a ton in trade. Yeah. Not going to get him for free, but not going to cost a ton.
Maybe it's like one of your ARB eligible relievers on like a throw-in prospect.
Sure. I mean,
something like that.
At most, it's probably like a Michael Morales type, like at most.
Yeah.
So, interesting. Again, kind of another guy plays a power premium position who doesn't hit for power, and
there's unfortunately a lot of that.
Yeah,
this offseason. Again,
it's just not a great winter to need a big bat like Seattle does. So, that'd be interesting. He could also stand in the outfield a little bit.
He's probably Mitch Haniger minus the arm, which
yeah. So like even on this team, he would be your fifth option in the outfield or sixth, maybe even below Dylan Moore.
But at the very least, you have that in your hip pocket. So, like, if you need to find out a way to get him in the lineup and Luke Raley in the lineup and all these guys in the lineup at the same time, whoever else you might bring in, then, you have that option at the very least. Yep. All right. So we'll get into my top 3 here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks and Booking.com. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay even in your baseball rival city during the postseason. Even an Orioles fan or a Guardians fan can have a good time in New York no matter what happens on the diamond this October. You can drown your playoff woes with a New York slice or celebrate advancing to the next round with a delicious chopped cheese, all while taking in the autumn vibes in Manhattan and capping it all off with a great stay in the city. Booking.com delivers exactly the right U.S. stay for you, and the right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rivals. Booking.com, booking.yeah. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Top 5 Thursday here on the show. And right now I'm going through my top 5 trade targets for the Mariners this winter. Just did numbers 5 and 4. That was Alec Baum at number 5 and Lamont Wade Jr. at number 4. Coming in at number 3 is Twins utility man Willie Castro. The Twins are in a really weird spot. They're probably not adding payroll again this winter. They just fired their GM. Obviously, they just collapsed in a similar fashion to the Mariners. And you know, I don't really know what the new GM's vision for 2025 is and where ownership wants to take things. But a guy like Castro, who only has 1 year left and is going to make a decent chunk of change in arbitration, seems like someone that could get shipped out. His ARB projection is $6.8 million, by the way. So it's pretty decent amount. What makes Castro so appealing here is he's a true super utility. He's played everywhere but first and catcher in his career, and he'll give you real value with the glove at a few different spots, which means he can essentially serve as a safety net for the Mariners this offseason, especially if they added him early on, because that gives them a fallback in multiple areas depending on what else they do and who else they want to pursue. Because with Castro, you have an answer at either second or third, and at worst, you have a guy that gives Dan Wilson a ton of flexibility in how he wants to deploy his lineup on a night-to-night basis.
Right, you can acquire Willie Castro, and then and plan for him to be the third baseman, and then if Bregman falls in your lap, it's not like you wasted an asset for Castro. Yeah. Just, okay, now Castro plays some second, he plays some short, he plays some center, he plays some left. Very Mark McLemore-ian.
Yeah, absolutely. So the bat's also taken a massive leap since he got to Minnesota. He's posted a 108 WRC plus in each of the last 2 seasons. He's stolen 47 combined bases, 33 in 2023, 14 this year. He was worth 3.1 F4 this year, and /2, 47, 331, 385, 12 homers, 60 RBI, 23.6% K rate, 8% walk rate. Potential trade cost is a bit tough to nail down here because, again, the Twins are in a weird spot right now. I just don't really know what they would prioritize here. I guess for the sake of the exercise, let's just call it maybe 2 guys in the Logan Evans range of Mariners prospects. Sound about right?
Sure. And I mean, like I said, if they want to try and compete, then I don't know. I mean, maybe Josh Rojas and like Trent Thornton could come into play here or something like that. But yeah, Castro, not exactly impactful at the plate as I think most Mariner fans would want, but just a really good player to have, and certainly a player that it's kind of similar to Dylan Moore, except for it's kind of the opposite of Dylan Moore. It's a left-handed bat, switch hitter, I believe, right? But it's primarily a left-handed bat who can steal bases and is a pretty good defender, but makes contact and hits for some average, as opposed to Dylan Moore, who's just kind of power in defense. So Castro is an interesting name because again, he checks a box. We're just not quite sure what box it'll be until opening day.
Right. So coming in at number 2 is Rays first baseman Yandy Diaz. Yandy is, simply put, a much better right-handed version of Lamont Wade, which with a much longer track record of putting up those kinds of numbers. So he's also going to be far more expensive in terms of dollars and prospects. But you get him for 2 years instead of 1, assuming you pick up his $12 million club option in 2026, of course. And this might be the best time to get him because he's coming off a down year for his standards, and now that down year still saw him slash 281, 341, 414 with 14 homers, 65 RBI. So yeah, but obviously he didn't get dealt at the deadline. So we'll see how the Rays value him now that teams get one less bite at the apple with him. We know the Mariners had at least some interest in him this summer. So there's a question of what led to them not making a deal for him, and if that's still relevant to the trade talks now. So have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. There's also Randy versus Yandy.
Yeah, and I'm not concerned about that. I'm not.
No, just to put them out there. There were some concerns about how they interact in the clubhouse. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
From something that happened 2 years ago between their wives.
Right.
So,
and if there is still lingering beef there, you guys are pros.
Sure.
Figure it out.
Right. They literally did it for 2 years and everything was fine.
Yeah.
The thing with Yandy, and this is kind of a running theme of your list here, premium power position, below average power. He hits a lot of ground balls, hits them hard, a lot of hard ground balls, but they're ground balls nonetheless. So again, you're not getting a lot of thump.
You're getting 15-ish home runs and 30 plus
30
doubles.
Yeah. You hope for a guy who's, in his approaching his mid 30s now, like, but
yeah,
they were obviously interested. They were interested in Diaz after they had acquired a Rosarena. So they were apparently one of the 3 finalists on deadline day, and a deal just didn't get done for anybody. So I think the Mariners probably feel just fine about Diaz and a Rosarena in the same clubhouse that they were still in it. Now maybe they were in it and they were just kind of used as leverage at the end of it, but blah blah blah, whatever. As far as we know, the Mariners had real interest.
There was a lot of mixed messaging in the reporting. Like, remember, it was the Yankees and the Astros, but then it was the Pirates, the Astros, and the Mariners, and all that. So who knows what was actually the case? But it does seem like the Mariners were involved to a certain degree. And look, man, despite the power issues, the over the wall power issues, at the very least, he's a really good hitter. So again, he's probably going to give you like 15-ish home runs, 30 plus doubles, and he's going to do that while striking out around 15-ish% of the time and walking somewhere north of 10%.
What's also kind of interesting is that the Mariners' interest in Diaz continued, apparently, as it was reported, after they acquired Turner even. So they were still willing to add Diaz on top of Turner as well, even though they're kind of similar players. So, maybe this is just a guy they really like, and they'll figure out what to do with him. And it's worth noting that Diaz can play third in the same way that Jake Burger can play third. So which is to say they shouldn't, but Diaz is interesting.
All right. So lastly here on the list, my number 1 trade target for the Mariners this winter, Cubs second baseman Nico Horner. I don't know what the Cubs are going to do this offseason. They're always really weird in the offseason. But I know the Mariners have coveted Horner for a while, and obviously they love to circle back. He's an elite defender. Excellent runner. He stole 74 bags the last 2 years combined. Very little power to speak of, but it's a consistently high average. He struck out just 10% of the time this year. Doesn't walk much either because he attacks early in the count and obviously makes a lot of contact. So there you go. Slashed 273, 335, 373 this year. He was worth 3.9 F4. That would have made him the second most valuable position player on the Mariners this year.
He's a good player.
Yeah, he's under club control for 2 more years. It's $11.5 million this year, $12 million next year.
Cost controlled.
We're probably talking Harry Ford plus here. I would pay that. Horner's a really good player who checks off a lot of boxes of what the Mariners need to complement the rest of the roster. So, yeah.
Sure. Horner's fine. Yeah. I mean, you're going to complain about a 4-win player, 3.5, 4-win player? No.
Look, this should also be used here as an exercise to explain how poor this market is in general. Like, you are not going to get a big bat. I mean, Yandy Diaz is probably the closest you're getting to a big elite quote unquote bat, right? Because again, I don't think you're getting Brent Rooker. I don't think that's happening.
So unless there's a big surprise, player that we are not expecting is all of a sudden made available behind the scenes, great. If you can get Jose Ramirez, awesome. Number 1 on my list. He's not available. So and I don't think Toronto's trading Vlad Jr. I think the Mariners will circle back on that. Yep. I think they will. I think they'll try and see if something's changed over the last couple of months, but I don't think that's happening. 98% of the Mariners conversations they will have this winter will go nowhere.
Yeah. As is the case with every front office and every offseason in any sport, right?
They'll absolutely check in on Rooker. They'll absolutely check back in on Vlad. If you're thinking of a hitter right now that we didn't listen or mention, the Mariners are almost certainly going to ask about that player.
Yeah.
It's just almost certainly not going to go anywhere. And even Horner might not be available. We'll have to see. It does sound like they want pitching.
Yeah.
And the Mariners don't really have that to give. Not for a guy like Horner, anyways.
Yeah, I'm not giving up Kirby or Gilbert or Wu or Miller.
Right. I think Castillo's money with, it's a whole thing. So trade clause, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah.
We'll see. But those are my top 5 trade targets and a couple of honorable mentions. So now it's time for Colby to shine. Top 5 ballpark foods coming your way here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is once again brought to you by FanDuel. NFL fans can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. Yeah, you heard that right. $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Top 5 Thursday, and the thing with these top 5 episodes we're going to be doing over the course of the off season, we'll be doing one more serious-ish topic, Mariners-related topic, like we just did with top 5 trade targets. And then, the other host who doesn't do the serious topic is going to do kind of a silly top 5. And today, Colby is going to be doing top 5 ballpark foods. So floor is yours, my friend. Top 5 ballpark foods.
Sure. So couple caveats here.
Mm-hmm.
One, I'm doing mostly generic. So these are foods that are available at just about every ballpark in America, right? So if you're looking for, the garlic fries or Ivor's clam chowder
Moto
bowl,
pizza or whatever,
this isn't the list for you.
Yeah.
Side note, not on the list, pizza, as you just mentioned. Honorable mention, the problem with pizza, too greasy, especially ballpark pizza. Not every ballpark has Moto pizza in it, unfortunately. Right. So pizza, honorable mention, not on the top 5 though. So
I don't think I've ever had pizza at a baseball game before.
It's
had it in a movie theater, but I've never had pizza at a ball game. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, my thing with pizza, too greasy. All right. So that's why it's not on the list. But anyways, I guess we'll just start. Number 5 is a staple communal food item, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
Chicken strips and fries combined together.
Solid.
High floor, low ceiling, but some ceiling, but look, relatively low.
Well, if they're the ones at the Rogers Center, they've been sitting out for about an hour.
Sure. And so obviously there's different takes on these foods, but just in general, chicken strip and fries, you're probably not going to hate it. You're probably not going to love it. You can share the fries. You can, it's just a communal type of food that is just standard high floor. Just give me something nourishing and like warm and like it's fine. Like as you guys might guess, I'm not a huge fan of ballpark food. You think
it does its job.
Yeah, it's not there to be like a gourmet experience. So
no.
Number 5, chicken strip and fries.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, I'm going with soft pretzel with cheese. You have to have the cheese. Now the cheese is tricky though. The cheese is tricky because A, it usually costs more.
Yeah, how much is the cheese?
Right. And B, like how good is the cheese? Obviously it's that cheap, like plasticky, runny cheese that comes in a cup or whatever. That's fine. But the cheese should be warm. It should be a warm cheese.
There's a certain point in a ball game where I can convince myself to eat that cheese. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. The reason why is not on my list because these are foods, not
right,
not consumables at a ballpark. But so the issue with the pretzel is that it has a high ceiling, right? But it has a low floor. The pretzel's been sitting in there for a while. It gets a little firm. Maybe the cheese is kind of cold, or maybe it's like boiling hot. Like it's a bit of a risk, and that's why it's number 4. It's significantly more delicious at its. It might be the best tasting thing on my list. If it's right at its peak, you get the right amount of salt, you get the cheese right, like good. But that floor, man, oh man, you might have just wasted $11. If you're lucky, they're only $11. But that
pretzel could be hard as a rock.
Yeah. So it's a risk, but again, upside play. Number 4.
Yeah.
The upside is so good that it beats out chicken strip and fry. Number 3, soft serve ice cream. Spring, summer day at the ballpark, you get a little soft serve ice cream. Delicious. Awesome,
in the helmet.
Incredible. In the helmet if they offer it. Yeah. Do they offer that in Toronto?
I don't know. I've never had ice cream at Rogers Center. Yeah.
You also do Dippin' Dots. That's kind of an addendum.
Dippin' Dots. Yeah.
So if you want to do Dippin' Dots, soft serve, whatever, right? Ice cream at the ballpark. The thing that knocks ice cream down a little bit, the meltiness factor. Like you got to get through that pretty quick, especially if it's a hot
That's
day.
why I don't eat ice cream at the ballpark.
Right. Yeah. So again, high risk, but the floor is tremendous. Maybe the highest floor of anything on this list is ice cream. It's pretty much impossible to screw up, but the downside is so massive that it gets knocked down a couple pegs, and that's why it's at number 3. Just because it melts so fast. You have to eat that really, really fast. And you ever been to the ballpark with a young kid? You just spent $7 to $15 on something that is going to melt before they're halfway through it. Yeah. So it is a high risk, high reward play, but that's why Dippin' Dots are a nice alternative. Stay a little bit more. They stay together a little bit more. So, but soft serve ice cream, number 3. Number 2, this might be cheating a little bit, but not really. Popped corn. Now that could be popcorn, that could be kettle corn, that could be Cracker Jacks.
Yeah. I was like, why did you say it like that?
Right. Now because it's not popcorn, it's popped corn. Yeah. That, it could be the cheesy kind. It can be the kettle corn, the caramel corn, the popcorn. Yeah. There's a lot of different varieties, which is great. It's kind of a communal food if you're brave enough and you trust the people you're with. I don't. I would just get my own bag.
To me, though, it's more of a movie theater snack. It's not really a ballpark snack.
That is a downside, but you're sitting there, you're watching a ball game, and you're just It's just mindless eating. Yeah. It's good. It tastes good. So that's why it's there. Peanuts and sunflower seeds would be on the list.
Yeah.
And would be very high on my list. The problem, the spitting. It's just not, you maybe you have a cup and you could do that or whatever, fine. But it takes one wayward seed or one shell to hit somebody and all of a sudden it's a thing. Right. So
sure.
I can't put seeds because there is that whole predicament. And also I think of the cleanup crew a little bit. That's gotta suck.
Sure.
To just have to sweep all that extra work instead of just picking stuff up and throwing it away. So I almost went with seeds and pushed everybody up one.
I am a peanut guy at the ballpark, shells going on the floor. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't care about other humans. I understand that. But
no, I do. If I'm able to get a cup, I will get a cup and put it in the cup.
It's a decent thing to do. Yeah. Sunflower seeds at a baseball game is incredible. I just can't do it at T-Mobile Park because I feel bad. They're a pain to pick up and it only takes one getting caught in the wind and all of a sudden it hits somebody in the back of the neck and it just I feel bad, right? It feels like a selfish thing to eat. But anyways, that's why popcorn, it's a little bit more controllable. It tastes great. There's a lot of variety. You can share it. It's pretty cheap considering what else you buy at the ballpark. So popcorn's way up. Popped corn is way up there.
Corn,
Number 1, everybody should see this coming. It's a no-brainer. It's the hot dog. It is the hot dog. There is
we love a good glizzy.
If you think there is another answer here, go yell at a wall. You're wrong.
Yeah.
It is a hot dog. There's nothing. There's no simple pleasure in this life more enjoyable than sitting in a warm baseball stadium, hot dog, 4th inning, Mariners up 2-1, and you're just sitting there. Bottom of the order is coming up. Probably going to go 1, 2, 3. No problem. You sit here. I'm going to eat this hot dog. You could have a couple. You can get the cheap hot dog, or you can get the Dodger dog, or the Mariner dog, or whatever, or you can just go get the value dogs.
Yeah, what's that one in Texas?
Oh, the boomstick or whatever.
Yeah, the boomstick. Yeah.
You get the chili cheese dog. You could just get, just a basic hot dog. You just do mustard and relish and ketchup or whatever. A lot of versatility. Cleans up easy, not that greasy. It has its own holder. Hot dog is number 1. Taste. Yeah. Just taste, versatility, easily, cleanliness, and just nostalgia. Hot dog at a ballpark is undefeated. Number 1. It's not close. It laps every other option you can get at the ballpark. It's a hot dog.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. hot dogs and baseball are synonymous. Like it's just what it is. It's just like if you don't eat at least one hot dog at a ball game, you didn't fully experience the ball game, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And here's the best thing about a hot dog: you don't even have to have a beer with it, like Ty does. And by one beer, I mean like 7. But
yeah,
you could just eat it normal, right?
You know what?
And it's perfect.
I'm getting on my soapbox here real quick. Every beer stand at a ballpark should have lids.
Sell a hot dog? Oh,
no, it should have lids. Okay.
Interesting.
Because they'll fill that thing up, and sometimes I gotta walk upstairs. Like that stuff
there's
is
a lot of traffic. You're trying
there's
to
a little dribble will get on my hand or whatever. That's annoying.
And gets
I don't
a little
like
sticky.
Yeah. I gotta balance everything. Plus, if I got other stuff, if I got a couple of dogs on me or whatever, or maybe I got 2 beers. Point. Yeah,
especially because if you like get a can, they open it for you right away. Like they won't let you walk around with it because obviously they don't want you giving it to somebody else. I get that, but like
or walking out of the stadium with it.
Yeah,
but
right.
Even a can is way better. But when you get beer on tap, right, and they pour it into the cup, they just won't give you a lid. So there was this beer stand. It still is, but this beer stand in Rogers Center used to have the lids. Whatever, they used to have the lids, right? And then I go there earlier this year and they were like, yeah, we no longer have the lids. I'm like, well, are you going to bring them back? Nope.
They'll say it's an environmental thing. It's a money thing.
Yeah, no,
that's a great point. Cause you get a soda, you get a lid. Like nobody questions it. You get a soda at the ballpark, a fountain drink, you get a lid.
Yeah.
Why isn't it like that with beer?
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
But so there's your little soapbox. But my soapbox is that hot dog is number 1.
Yeah.
If you're disagreeing with me in the comments, congrats on being one of the biggest morons on the planet Earth. Okay.
Get the hell out of here.
Don't you know what's in a hot dog? Nope.
Don't care.
Don't need to.
Don't care. It slaps.
Hot dog at a ballpark. Best thing you can get.
100%. Yeah. All right. Well, that's a great note to end this one on. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed Top 5 Thursday. Again, this might happen on a Tuesday. Some weeks it'll happen on Thursday again. Whatever. We're not beholden to
alliteration, so it'll be Tuesday or Thursday.
Yeah. We love alliteration here. So, hey, if you have any ideas for us to throw on the wheels.
Wrong.
Oh, well, yeah, no. Speaking of, we do have Fan Fiction Friday coming tomorrow. We'll have the tweet will be up for you guys to submit your trades to. By the time that you're watching this or listening to this. So head on over to @LO_Mariners on Twitter or X and submit your trades. But yeah, so also if you have an idea for something for us to throw on either of the wheels, the more serious Mariners topic wheel or the the more silly one.
Ideally still somewhat baseball related though.
Yeah, ideally, but if you don't, whatever. Because there's it's not a sure thing that it'll get picked anyway.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if you have any ideas, throw them out there, and we'll possibly add them to the wheel. All right. So that's going to do it for our show. Before we get out of here, a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty and Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Ty and Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.